Hey, TikTok. So, and Facebook, and all my wonderful clients and family. And okay, so this is the second part as to what happened that night. And let me just remind y'all, the details of this case. I definitely cannot explain everything right now. It's an ongoing investigation, but like I said, please feel free to message me, reach out, text, call, ask me about Chase. Don't worry that you're gonna make me feel like you're reminding me of him, because trust me, I'm already thinking of him every single day, every hour. And when people ask me, it makes my heart feel good that they care enough about me or about him to ask. So, the night 5-3 that Chase snuck out. The only thing Chase did wrong that night was sneak out. Chase asked me about 9 p.m. It was Friday night. Chase asked me about 9 p.m. Can him and his older stepbrother go to a friend whose older stepbrother Ashton, who lived on my property. That is a separate story because my two middle boys' father was actually murdered as well the same way, and that's a completely different story for another story time. But Ashton, whom I, raised as well for some odd years and took under my wing, lived on my property. Anyways, okay. Chase asked about 9 p.m. can him and his older brother Ashton go to a friend's. It was super rainy that bad. I said no. Ashton's done slid into a ditch. I don't want someone to come around these corners and hit y'all's bikes. He said, okay, yes ma'am, can I go over to Ashton's, which is on my property, and just hang out for a little bit? I said, yes honey, just don't leave the gate. He said, can said friend who he asked to go over to, come over? I said, that's fine, just don't leave. He said, okay, I'm fixing to go over there. I said, okay, well, I'm probably going to go to bed, so just don't make it too late. I still got to work tomorrow. He said, yes, ma'am, I love you. I said, I love you too, baby. At 1:02 a.m., we're getting a phone call from Ashton's phone saying, come now. We missed about, I don't know, 4 or 5 phone calls because, at that point, I was in REM. I had only been asleep for 2 hours. I immediately get up. I knew something was wrong. I throw shorts on. I run out the door, jump in the truck, leaving my husband behind and running down the driveway after me. I get to the scene, which is right out my driveway around the corner on the next road in the front of our neighborhood. I go to the scene. They don't have tape and all that, everything locked down yet. But I see Ashton immediately, and I see the back window of his Suburban all shattered out. And I immediately walked up to him and I said, what happened? And he said, Mom, I don't know. I said, where is Chase? And he's, Mama, I don't know. And then he's yelling, it should have been me. And then I grabbed him and I said, what the fuck do you mean it should have been you? Where is Chase? What the fuck happened, Ashton? Tell me. Mama, I don't know. By this time, the officer, I guess, had realized who I was. So these detectives sheriffs had came up, and they started, on the radios, please block the road, please do all that. So roads get blocked, and at this point in time, I didn't even realize that my son was equivalent to 2.5, maybe 3 driveways up. Because it wasn't, it was where he died was literally in the middle of where they were hanging out and where those boys Ubered to, and they walked up. Chase met them kind of in the middle. Okay, so then roads get blocked down. finally, the sheriff starts walking up to me because they're realizing who I am. And I asked them, where is Chase? And they said, ma'am, we don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You can't tell me where a 6'3", blonde hair, blue-eyed, 14-year-old is that has the stature of a man. You can't tell me where the fuck he's at? And what I had just described was the body that was laying in the road. And then they realized who the hell I am. And they said, no, ma'am, we can't. They walk away. 15, 20 minutes later, detectives walk up. You got to go talk to her. I guess they told him, you got to go talk to her. So, detectives walked up to me. By this time, they had already done, complete everything that they could do as far as reviving. There was no reviving. He was dead on scene. Found out later the first bullet hole that went in was actually headshot, because they had him on his knees.